Oh, there we go. Okay, so homeschooling, you can do this. Before I say anything else, I kind of want to remind everybody that homeschooling, you can do this. I know a lot of parents are very nervous about homeschooling, and because of COVID last year, a lot of people kind of got thrown into homeschooling, a form of homeschooling that they didn't necessarily plan on doing. What happened to our picture? Can you see what happened to our picture? See, we don't know. Sorry, I'm trying to do a couple things here at once. Show participants. Okay, it's okay. Okay, so, and I know that I understand this feeling of being a little stressed about getting thrown into homeschooling. I want to share a quick story that happened to me. When I have 4 children, my older 3 are quite a bit older than Peyton, and they, my child was, my oldest child, for the lack of a better description, was being bullied by a teacher in school. He was in a private school, and I went and spoke to the teacher, and instead of the teacher working with my son, he decided to bully my son even more. And I went to pick up my son one day from school, and he was standing outside crying because the teacher had ridiculed him in front of the entire class. And when I was speaking to my son, a couple other parents came up to me and said, I want to tell you something. My child told me that Paul was very bullied in school today by the teacher. So I went and spoke with the principal. And again, this was a private school. And the principal kind of was like, well, and he kind of brushed it off. And I was really upset, and I didn't want to see my child go through this anymore. And I had tried this, talk to him multiple times, this teacher, and it didn't go anywhere. So that day I said, that's it. And I pulled my 2 older children out of school and went into the principal's office and said, give me all the books. I paid for all of their curriculum, and my children are no longer going to school here. You can keep the tuition through the end of the month, but that's it. That's it. We're out of here. So I went home, I called my lawyer, and I told him that I was not going to be homeschooling. I mean, I was not going to be schooling anymore. And that if they wanted to get any more tuition out of me, I wanted them to talk to him. He said, fine. So the next morning I get up, and it suddenly hit me, oh no, my children are not enrolled in school. It's a school year. What do I do? So at the time I was living in Florida, I went up and I spoke with the Seminole County School District. And I talked to a really nice lady there, and I broke down and I said, I don't know what I'm going to do. I told her the story. She said, come on, let's get you registered for homeschooling. And I thought, all right, I will just homeschool through the end of the year, and I will research other schools and put them in a different school. Well, long story short, I never stopped homeschooling. And I was never a homeschooler for religious reasons. I know some people do that. I was more a homeschooler for educational reasons. And so I did it. It was what I did. And I homeschooled all 4 of my children. And there you go. Okay, can you go to the next one for some? Okay, so what is homeschooling? I think we all pretty much know what homeschooling is. It's education by the parents that are teaching their kids about school subjects at home. The homeschools ages 5 to 17, it said that 3.3% of students are homeschooled in total. I just saw a piece on TV yesterday that said this year about 10 million will be. Many are, whether you've just started or you've been doing it for years like I did, there's always obstacles that come up. So don't stress yourself out about obstacles. So while homeschooling is legal in all 50 states, if you choose to go homeschooling and not to school your children at home through a school system, you need to check out what each state does and how to file the paperwork if you have to file paperwork. State of Oklahoma, if I'm correct on this, is the only state that you really don't have to, but you need to find out what your each state is required. Many homeschoolers like it because it's a more relaxed atmosphere. The benefits of homeschooling, there's lots of them. There are even benefits for the parents. You get to educate your children, so you can do as much or as little as you want. In the state of Florida, when my older two, I lived in Florida, when my older two were being homeschooled, there was only 16 credit hours required for high school. I made my kids take 8 credit hours a year for high school. So I wanted them prepped for college. I did not want them going to college, didn't want them sliding by in high school. And then when they got in college, they were going to be in school with kids from all other states, actually all around the world. And I wanted them to have as much education as they could. You can continue to learn alongside your children, share your hobbies and interests. I did that. I learned a lot when I was homeschooling my children. Like, for example, one thing I learned was Thomas Jefferson invented the lazy Susan. And I know that's a minor thing, but you'd be amazed at how many things I picked up. And I'm college educated, but I picked up so much stuff homeschooling my children. You can spend quality time with your children, saving money versus putting them in a private school. If you feel that you want to put them in a private school, you can homeschool, and there are ways to have your children be taught through tutors, through this new thing that they call the pods. You can do that. You can pay other parents. You can, if you have a type of job that you travel, you can take your children with you. There's freedom from a school schedule. That's another nice thing. Personal growth. Okay, there are benefits to the children. It can be less stressful than school. They could take breaks anytime. I know with Peyton being autistic, that was a very big thing. All 4 of my children had very, very different learning styles. And the great thing about this was they were able to learn in their own learning style. It's fully free too. And there's academic flexibility. And what I mean by that is, let's say you have a child who is at a 5th grade math, but tests at 8th grade in everything else. You can then have them do the 5th grade math and work their way to getting to 8th grade rather than become so overwhelmed at the 8th grade math level. These are just some statistics. You can read over these quickly. This really isn't, as prevalent or worrisome. Okay, definitions of an umbrella school. I will tell you, I've done it all. I did the umbrella school, I did the co-op, I did the private tutors, I did the full teaching myself. I did the actual where my children were in a group setting taught by, like, we had a retired doctor who taught biology and chemistry to our children. We paid them, but they were in a classroom setting. There was 15 or 18 kids in this class. So I tried everything, and I really liked the umbrella school. An umbrella school is an alternative education school that serves to oversee the homeschooling of your children to fulfill government educational requirements. They vary greatly in what they offer and cost. Some offer group classes, a very defined curriculum, sports, field trips, standardized testing, and more. My kids were actually under an umbrella school, my older ones, and then they were in a classical education curriculum too. So they went to school every day with kids. The umbrella school that my older two graduated from, they had basketball. In fact, the one year Mr. Basketball from the state of Florida was actually from our homeschool group. They had cheerleading, they had prom, they had everything. It was just like going to school, only they got their basics, their reading, writing, and arithmetic from in a classroom setting, and the parents gave all the electives. You can get involved in a homeschool co-op where a group of families meet together, they work together for common goals. That way your children are around other kids, they're kind of in a classroom setting, and parents can either be the teachers or they can chip in for cost. As I said, I homeschooled all 4 of my kids. Now, Peyton was in his final year. He was in Discovery K-12, which is a free online academy. And it ranges from preschool all the way through 12th grade. I cannot say enough good about Discovery K-12. And one of the things that I love about Discovery K-12 more than anything else is, let's say that you now are finding yourself having to homeschool your children or school at home this year, but you still want them to be involved in the school they're doing the virtual learning. If you want to supplement, you can have your children literally take 1 or 2 classes from Discovery K-12. And what's great about that is if you work from home. Now, I want to make sure you understand, when I was homeschooling my children, I worked full-time from home. So it wasn't like I was just sitting around the kitchen table with my children. I had a desk in each one of my children's rooms. They were required to learn at their desks or in the common room where we had a TV so that they could watch videos, they could watch online learning classes like Bill Nye the Science Guy, PBS. There's so much available. In fact, I wish that when I was homeschooling my children that I had as much available to me. Okay, homeschooling outside the box. This is really how I homeschooled. There's so many little things, and I'm just going to give you a few really quick ones. Okay, you can teach your kids how to use all the different silverware, how to set a proper table. Sounds like nothing. Okay, suddenly your child goes to college, they get invited to an event. They don't know what all these forks and spoons are for. Well, you've now taught them. There's a lot of, believe it or not, there's a lot of places that offer free etiquette classes. Teach your kids manners and etiquettes. Teach them how to open a door, teach them how to be polite, teach them how to respect other people. Take your kids to the grocery store. I used to do this all the time. I would tell my children, you need to plan the meals for the week. This is our budget. And you have to figure out how you're going to feed our children, our family, on this budget, because we have to eat. We would talk about, when we went to the grocery store, we would talk about what are healthy foods. What are you having too many carbs? Are you this? Are you that? Talk about so many learning things, your fruits, your veggies, your typical intake, rather than just it be a one-time class. Do this multiple times with your children. How to do budgets, such as car insurance, home insurance, gasoline, rent, mortgage, all the common things that your kids have to pay. So often our kids just have this attitude like, well, my mom and dad make all this money, and they have this extra cash. And this helps them when they get older to understand how to live on a budget better. You can teach them how to cook breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You can be connecting with them with their ancestry. My grandparents were immigrants from the Netherlands. I learned to cook and bake from my grandmothers. They shared their experiences of growing up. They talked to me about what it was like growing up. They talked to me about different things like their grandparents and how they spoke Dutch and what part of the Netherlands we were from. You can also use cooking and baking as a math lesson. Give your child only like a half a teaspoon, a 1/4 cup, and a 1/3 cup, and make them figure out how to make that work in a recipe. Teaches them, you can teach them chemistry, you can teach them math, so many great things that you can be doing. Plus the side benefit to this is your children can make your dinner, and it helps you out. Get them involved in everyday activities. A lot of times they don't realize how much as parents we have to do. And I was a single parent for many years. My kids suddenly realized how much I was really doing. Taught them a lot more respect for what I had to do. Teach them how to clean and do laundry. That seems like such a simple thing. My oldest son, I taught him how to do laundry. When he got to college, a lot of the kids that he went to college with didn't really know how to do their laundry. Their mom always did it. So he earned extra money doing everybody's laundry. Teach them how to work on an automobile, how to change oil on the car, how to change tires, change your windshield wiper blades, et cetera, et cetera. My older 2 kids have literally rebuilt engines in vehicles. They learned that being homeschooled. They know how to take care of cars. They've rebuilt transmissions. So it's a great trait. You can also teach your kids trades like how to paint. Like painting walls, how they can do candle making, how to power wash. There's so many things that if they lose their careers, they have a great trade to fall back on. One thing I always said about my kids when they were growing up was I wanted them to have an education and I wanted them to have a trade because I wanted them to always be able to take care of themselves. You can do arts and crafts with your kids. Seems insignificant. It's a great bonding time. It's a great time to do things together. And so often when your kids are in school and you're working, you just don't have as much time for all these kind of things. Learn about different types of music. Study music while you study geography. Teach your kids about the Middle East and what kind of music, the Arabic music. Teach them about Indian music. It's fantastic. If you have neighbors that live in your neighborhood from different parts of the world, see if they'd be willing to spend a couple hours with your children and teach them about their heritage, what kind of things they learned growing up, what was music and everything in their culture, what kind of things did they do culturally, food, everything. It really helps your children be more well-rounded. When my daughter was out of high school, she really wanted to go live in Nepal. And she went and worked in a orphanage in Nepal. She had studied that part of the world as part of her homeschooling. So when she went, there wasn't a culture shock to her. It was fantastic. Mix it with regular online and school books and watch learning shows. I know one question I get is, how did you work and have your children do all of their schooling because they kept coming to you? One thing that you can do is find that soft spot with your child. Find that particular time or teaching that is really good with your child. Like some of my kids did much better with school books than they did going on a computer, or that they did with learning through like watching TV and stuff. And so one of the things that you can do is, let's say that you want to set aside a time from 9 to noon that you really have to hunker down and work. Have them, if they do really well at watching learning shows, have them get on and watch their learning shows during that time. Have them take notes and do what I used to do, where I would say to them, tell me 3 things that you learned from that show that I probably don't know about. It causes them to really pay attention. And also, if you have multiple children, say none of the answers can be repeated. And if they are repeated, you have to go back and watch it again. So use every opportunity that you have with your children to make it into a learning opportunity. You can really be creative. Don't let it stress you. I know it's stressful. And when I first started homeschooling, I was so stressed because I was like, my kids were coming to me with all these different things, and I was trying to work and I was trying to do everything. And I realized, you know what? I sat down with each one of them for a couple hours and realized how they were learning best. And that's what we made it become. Get your kids to volunteer in local and outdoor social activities, such as the animal shelter, okay? Maybe you can't do as much of this with COVID going on, but there's always way to do it. Maybe like Peyton is in a special needs group through our church for adults, and they meet via Zoom. You can get them involved with, 5 or 10 other kids or college students. There's a lot of college students who are in college to be teachers or social workers or therapists. Reach out to the local colleges. Say, do you have some students that would like to earn some extra credit or get some time in, and have them be with your child, teaching them online, connecting with them. You can do things like get them involved in Girl Scouts, your local church, outdoor sports. A lot of private schools also will allow you to get involved in their extracurricular activities. Have your child start a garden outside. Something I did with all my kids. It's great because it also got them outside, got them using their hands. They were watching things. They had to learn to take care of things. They had to make sure it was watered. They had to weed in the garden. Again, these are the kind of things that if you come up with, things outside the box, you can then get them doing this. Get them involved in helping out communities for other issues, such as feeding in a soup kitchen. Okay, right now, There are a lot of families that are really hurting, and they really, really, really need extra food. You can organize on your community Facebook group, have your kids say, we're going to be coming around. Can you do front porch delivery or put it out on your front porch? Everybody put out 2 cans. They go around, they connect. They have a wagon or something. They can go around, connect it, deal with a local church or a local charity. Like we have here, we go to the Woodlands United Methodist Church, and they're always taking canned goods to bring it up. Connect with them, teach them. When my son, my oldest son, was a junior and a sophomore in high school, he kind of got too big for his britches. And so I got him involved in a charity, and he went into a Native American reservation and built a school. He was part of a team that went and built the school for them. He came home with a complete different attitude because he said, I didn't realize how many people were really in need, and it really hurt his heart. And these are the kind of things that you can do with your children and teach them. Go on field trips. Everything can be a field trip. I'm serious. We have so many local museums. We have places that you can go on walks. You can use so many things as a field trip. You'd be amazed at what I used to do. I used to actually do this thing with my kids when I would take them to the grocery store. We do it as a scavenger hunt. And I would say, please find chicken noodle soup for under $2 that has these, certain types of, gives you your vitamin C, gives you this, gives you that. And whoever got the most, whoever came back first with it, they would get a prize for the week. They usually got to pick the main big item we bought, be it ice cream, be it popcorn, whatever, that everybody kind of had as their snack for the week. It taught them a lot about reading labels, how to eat healthier, all these kind of things. Taught them how to price shop. Okay, this is one thing that I actually have a podcast out already that really goes into Flipboard, but I want to really share with this. Here's the greatest thing about Flipboard. If you are not familiar with it, it is the little app on your phone, and it looks like this app right here, okay? Here's the greatest thing about it. You can collaborate. You can collaborate with your children. Your children can collaborate with other family members. Your children can collaborate with other students. Even teachers can collaborate with their students, okay? You can put videos in it. You can put pictures. You can put blogs. You can actually write in it. You can make it private. You can make it public. There is so much you can do. We have all kinds of magazines for Flipboard, okay? Here we have these are just some of ours, okay? Here's a way to start your Flipboard. Install the app and go to it. Log into your account, bookmark it for browsers, create your magazine, flip articles, photos, videos. Here's what's great. Monday morning, Sunday night, sit down, give your kids a Flipboard, have a Flipboard magazine with them, give them every single lesson plan for the week, and maybe do something like I want you to research let's say a classical book. Let's say you have them reading the classical book, and that book is boring to them, but it's about 200 years ago in Scotland, okay? You can have them find pictures about Scotland, make it a reading time, they can write a couple paragraphs about it, they can use it for geography, for history, for everything. And it's fun because guess what? They're online. Okay, my friend Terry Porter, her daughter is a literature teacher. She has her students research the books and put Flipboard magazines together about it. You can do a chemistry Flipboard magazine, all these cool experiences. You can have your kids do a cookbook magazine, everything and anything that comes to mind. A few years ago, we went to South Texas. We made Peyton do our trip to South Texas. And we had him do it ahead of time of things he wanted to see and things about South Texas. And then everywhere we went, he wrote down notes, he took pictures, and he made an entire magazine about South Texas. Yep. He learned about the Battle of Goliad. I didn't even know anything about the Battle of Goliad. Okay, we learned so much about things. And when we would get to a place, say we were at a museum, and he'd say, "What is this?" We'd say, "You can research it and put that in your magazine. You can do that with your kids. Let's say your child is really into baseball, okay? Take that baseball magazine and connect it to education. Have them learn about math and science and all kinds of cool things about baseball tied to education. And then you have a permanent magazine that they can keep going through. It is almost like you're creating their curriculum for them. Okay. What are some ways you can help a homeschooler? If you have neighbors who absolutely are overwhelmed from this, go ahead and have them work with them. See if you can work together. Maybe have their children come in with yours. Sometimes they can help occupy your children too. Okay, if you know of a family where there's physical abuse going on, you can always help that child get out of that situation, especially right now during COVID. Customize your learning curriculum. I already talked about this 100 ways. I think that's the greatest thing you can do. And if you are doing the curriculum through your school or you go through a curriculum situation, add on to it. Make it, maybe that part of the curriculum is overwhelming for them. Find a way to add to the curriculum that is best for their learning style. Show, especially those with autism, it's very stressful. Connect with small businesses. There's a lot of small businesses that love to work with homeschoolers. They'll allow you to sometimes volunteer, intern with it. They'll work with you on things, okay? Educate kids and younger teens with their creativities, life skills, and social skills. Remember, homeschooling is not as stressful as you think it is. Be creative. Pull out the creativity in your children. Teach them life skills because it's something they need forever. Social skills. Too many of us are now attached to our phones. Connect with your children that way. If you're working from home, have them do this by having them do outside things too, so that you have the time. In conclusion, have you or your kids been homeschooled? If you want to work with me or you have questions for me, you just need me for something, you can email me. Here's my email. You can visit my website. This is my podcast. You can listen to that. I'm on all social media, including YouTube. I'm always available. I get parents constantly coming to me, and I'm always available. I am. And I just want you to understand, if there's one thing you get from this, is I want everyone to understand you can do it. Every single part of you, you're raising your children. You are the parent of your child. Okay? Reach out to teachers. Teachers do it every day. Get their advice. Put it together. Okay? And do this so that you work with your community, work with others, but believe in yourself, because guess what? You are your children's best teacher. And that is what you have to always remember. You know, I always felt like I was failing when I was homeschooling. I did. And I had people chirping in my ear about how I wasn't doing enough for my kids. And every one of my children have told me how much farther they've gotten in life because of their life skills, social skills, thinking outside the box, their creative approach to learning. I'll give you a real quick story and then I'm going to close this. My daughter went to work in a law firm, and she was really, she came at the same time as another person. And they kept saying to her at the law firm, "You're getting so much farther. You're doing so much more on your own." The other paralegal we hired, who had way more experience than my daughter, keeps coming to us with questions all the time. And the lawyer that my daughter was assigned to came over to her one day and said, "You homeschool?" And my daughter said, "Yeah, how'd you know?" She said, "Because you're a self-learner, you're a self-motivator." And let me tell you, my daughter was probably the least self-motivated of all my kids and the least self-learned. but she picked up so much more of it. And she ended up being the top paralegal. She became an intellectual property specialist for the lawyers for Samsung in less than a year because she thought outside the box. She was creative in her learning. She was a go-getter. She learned how to do it on her own. And this is what I want you to go away with. You can do this. Don't sell yourself short. And if you need extra help or you have any specific questions, reach out to me. I'm always available. Thank you so much for joining my podcast. Peyton's my technical guy. I'm not a real technical person, so he sits here because I mess up everything. But thank you so much.